that last point on not tiring is extremely important and very, very crucial. And also a very nice way for me to bring in Honorable Khanyisile, because the evolution, as you said this morning in your submission on the African Parliamentary Network on illicit financial flows and tax, specifically on the issue of reparations, is that it's not about just the historical slavery, colonialism, but you've evolved the message to say that it should also include neocolonialism in the analysis, in the politics of how honorable members should be viewing the conversation of reparations. And so perhaps that's just an example of what Honorable Zungula is talking about, of not tiring and evolving to make sure that contemporary things are involved in this debate. So how then should networks like APNIFFT continue to bring in all these different types of dimensions in the context of illicit financial flows, which we heard about yesterday in the lecture, but also throughout the day in that sense?
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. I think we are already doing it because APNIFFT is fundamentally formed to fight illicit financial flows and for tax justice, but we are collaborating on debt with Afrodat. We are collaborating with Akina Mama on gender, so that intersectionality is already happening. But I think that for me, it's important that we all agree what is reparations, and that's not an APNIFFT issue. That's why I said this morning, I hope by the third day, we shall be very clear that when we say reparations, this is exactly what we mean. What are the categories? Because it's not just monetary. So I think in my trying to grapple with the concept, I actually, in the end, arrived on 4 things that if we all agree that there is a part that deals with restitution, and by nature, restitution means repairing what was broken. If you take Edo State in Nigeria, for instance, the Kingdom of Benin, I mean, it was looted. It is said that they took between 5,000 and 7,000 objects, and those were the ones that were being ticked off. There are ones that were not ticked off because those were the ones that were going into private possessions. So if we talk restitution, it would mean that, and it was the British doing that. And a lot of that apparently was sold into private museums. 77 of them are in Scotland. They were sold in 1903 by William Webster. And they're all over making money, but not for Benin. So in that sense, restitution would mean restoring the museum in Edo State. The British have a responsibility to do that and to return those artifacts together with those that belong to the national altar of Berlin. Britain alone should do it. I'm not counting the other nations where those items are today, because they are the ones who attacked and looted Berlin. The pictures are available, the stories are available. So if we can agree on that, it makes the APNIFFT job easy, because then our MPs know that, okay, for the restitution, which is repairing or restoration, these are the things we are looking at. The second one I arrived at was compensation, the one that's more popular. But even compensation, it's not just monetary. There is physical, there's spiritual, there's psychological, there's material, of which the looting of Benin is one. Those were materials that were taken. There's land, there's financial, there's education, there's history. Fellow Africans, do you watch documentaries and you see CGTN or Al Jazeera or Russia Today interview Europeans on this matter? On the streets, Europeans today say, oh, it was legal at the time. These things are already with us. Why are these Africans hustling us? These things must just stay here. They must just move on. You know, as if it's an orange that was stolen. So for me, if we can agree that compensation covers all these things and not just the financial is just but part of it. Land in Africa has not been returned, and land in Africa is a spiritual altar. It is not just an agricultural place. it's also an altar, because this is where we do our libations. Education. I don't know why we still teach Africans about Pythagoras as if Pythagoras was a white man. But he was not a white man. He was Khemetian, what they have code-named Egypt. So that, for me, that compensation, the education system should change. And it's not, the onus is not just on Africa, because we didn't invent this education system. The onus is on them too, because that's what they teach their children who truly believe that colonization civilized us. I don't understand why in South Africa, you know how hard the ANC tried to rename Pretoria to Tshwane. Each time that board was put up, the Afrikaners would spray paint it or whatever until the ANC just gave up. So there is an inability to admit the wrongs that were done by white people. And only us, under this category of compensation, only us can force them. History needs to change also. I don't understand why we still say the Goedehoop, the dromedaries, and the Drakensteen, those 3 ships I had to cram from in South Africa. They arrived in South Africa in 1652. No, they did not arrive. They came to colonize and grab the land. We need to put perspective to these things. We need to decolonize language. And for me, that falls under compensation. And then there's rehabilitation. Rehabilitation should be medical and legal. It has to be medical, because we have whole populations in Africa that you move into that Kimberley. You go to Kimberley, and the first thing that strikes you is how depressed and hopeless the people are. But that's where the diamonds came from. I mean, the diamond industry boomed. They raped Kimberley to the bone. Actually, what's left of that mine in Afrikaans, if you translate it into English, it's called a big dark hole. That's what is left. So for me, rehabilitation has to be medical and legal. We need to look at the survivors, not victims of colonialism, and they are there. And then it has to be statutory. I think Zungula touched on this. But statutory for me goes to what Tax Justice Network Africa is actually busy with now, and I'm glad that the ED Shanai Makumba is still in the room. Because statutory means changing the global financial architecture. Because if we don't change the global financial and political architecture, it means we continue to allow Africa to suffer racism at the global level. So there is nothing that Africa is going to do that will succeed, because the racism at that level stops it. So the important thing also when that happens is that it goes with a guarantee of non-repetition. That guarantee did not happen with Ghana in 1957. That's why we entered neocolonialism, because there was no recompense. They never repented. There was no repentance on their part. That's why they could still repeat it under neocolonialism and under illicit financial flows. So changing the global financial architecture, which is the category under statutory, ensures that it shall not be repeated. And also under statutory, there is also a symbolic part. So we are still on number 3. It's just that it has categories. It has a symbolic part where they issue an apology. I'm not interested in Germany apologizing to the Herero and the Nama on the side, or with France. No, there should be a collective taking of responsibility and apology. And when that is done, it must come with an international day where we commemorate the survivors of slavery and colonialism. And then that international day will trickle to national days. Not what we do on Africa Day, where traditional attire and dance around, and I'm just like, what are we celebrating? There's nothing to celebrate, not yet. It's like not yet uhuru, they say in Swahili. So what are we celebrating? And then the curriculum I've touched, it still falls under statutory. And then the change of names. I mean, names should change, for crying out loud. I don't understand why it's called Victoria Falls. I mean, who's Victoria? Who is Victoria? I don't go to London and something is named Khanyisile Drive. Really, names should change. And even personal names should change, people. We should get there. I don't understand why we still give birth to Patricks in 2025. No, not in 2025. In the era when you were born, maybe. Because we need to understand how these names came about. You had a Christian name and you had a heathen name. So when your mom took you to a clinic that was run by missionaries, and they say this child's name is Karma, they say, no, I can't pronounce that, you are breaking my tongue. Besides, that's a heathen name. This child's name is Christina. So people died fighting for a name change. And for me, that should come under statutory, and that includes towns. And then I'll single out quickly, Jason, under compensation, I'll single out the monetary. I don't know why we get the argument always, how shall we pay the people who suffered are dead? Have people ever heard of what we call transgenerational trauma? Please go and read about it, it's real. That's why Africans behave the same wherever they are. I don't care if you find them in Japan, in China, in America, in Africa. We behave the same. We are depressed people, we are angry people, we abuse substances, we don't support each other. We have this thing of, it's like we have self-hate, and it's systemic. It is not our fault, because this is the trauma that's been transmitted generationally to us. And for us to heal, we need to come to a point where we say we stop it here. And so for me, collective reparations is the way we should do it for now, my brother Patrick, and not focus on individuals, because it's going to sidetrack us. In individual reparations for now, it's not going to work for us. Collective, like I made the example of Benin, like I can make the example of pyramids in Sudan. I'm sure you know as we sit here that there are more pyramids in Sudan than there are in Egypt. Those who do not know, please know it. But those in Sudan were built by African women, the Kendake queens. And the first one that was ever built was built by a queen that was born with one eye closed, Amani Renas. That pyramid had so much wealth inside of it, and it survived until in 1897, it was plundered and bombed by an Italian explorer and wealth collector. They even had these criminals, they gave nice name, explorer and wealth collector. Giuseppe Fellini. He plundered that pyramid. Oh, they actually also called them treasure hunters. He bombed it, took everything in it. We still do not know. Italy must tell us. I know that the president of Italy was talking so much about the one in France. We actually need to ask her to find the descendants of Giuseppe Fellini for us, because we want the contents. So for me, though, that's collective. You know where the Shona land is in Zim. You know what was done to Shona land. So for me, to pay reparations to Shona people as a collective is easier. To pay reparations to Zulu people, it's easier. The desecration of Matobo Hill, sacred for Shona people, it needs to be paid for. So we know how to articulate collective reparations, Jason, and not individual ones. So, last minute, just a reminder. We said they can happen in 4 parts: restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, and statutory. If we all adopt a definition by the time we leave here, then it's easy for APNIFFT. For me and Zungula and the MPs who are here, we know what to tell our MPs to fight for. But as long as it is loosely flung and we don't know what it is somewhere at the back of our minds, our job is not easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Khanyisile.